Hola Comadres, welcome to another episode of Comadreando podcast. I'm your host Marcy, and today we have an amazing guest. She is a published author. She is a life coach. She has her own food IG channel. She's just like an all-around amazing mom, and I'm gonna let her introduce herself. Her name is Belqui. Go ahead, Belqui. Introduce yourself, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Belqui, and I am an autism mom. And I say that is the first and foremost thing that I am, because that is everything that rules my life. And yes, I am a published author as of recently, which I'm still in shock because, I'm here with like Temple Grandin, who has, one of the chapters in the book. So I'm co-authoring with her. So to me, that was like, when they told me. And,
That's
I have
amazing.
I have several incarnations in my life. So, I started as a advertising and marketing communications, degree working in advertising. Then I quit to follow my passion as an actress in New York City. I did that. Then my son was born. Then I quit acting because I wanted to be with my son who has autism, right? And then I became a coach, a life coach. I got certified with that. And then while I was doing that, I also started cooking a lot more and really expanding the cooking, and then becoming a food blogger, YouTube content creator. I work with a lot of brands, when it comes to recipe development and things like that. So as you can hear by everything I'm saying, I am a busy girl with lots and lots on her plate, but I wouldn't have it any other way. So yeah.
Oh my God, comadre, she's like literally me. No, seriously, like everybody calls me todóloga. They're like, ella sabe hacer de todo. Like she knows how to do everything. You literally are a todóloga.
Yeah, but I think it's in our blood, as Latinas, as, we, I don't know about you, but I'm first generation American. Like,
Same.
we kind of bring it. We have to like represent our people, and we have to make our people proud. And that's really why I'm here. Right. So that's it. So you just never give up. You just keep going. You keep fighting. You keep finding something else to do. You find opportunity in things that are challenging, which is really where I come from. Is something happens to me that becomes a challenge in my life and that maybe changes my life forever, then find the opportunity in that.
Yeah, so, amazing. Yeah. And guys, she's Dominican, de lo mío.
Dominicana, soy santiagueña.
Del Cibao, Lado, right?
Del Cibao.
I'm from La Vega also.
Oh, so you're like a neighbor.
Yeah, definitely. So, getting into the topic today, comadres, today we're going to be covering something. I asked a question a few weeks back to the comadres regarding taboos in communities of color, regarding labels and diagnoses. And the reason why I asked the question was that as a special education teacher and also as a mom of a child with autism, I've noticed that a lot of parents are very reticent against having their child quote unquote labeled, and more so getting them an IEP or getting them the help that they need, right? I know a lot of it has to do with ignorance, unfortunately, but I really wanted to kind of like delve into that and like analyze what it is, because at one point I thought it was like, was there something historically that happened to people with communities of color regarding special education that people are so like against it? So I did a lot of digging. I read a lot of articles, and I'm ready to talk about it in a more informed way. Yeah, so before we get into the nitty gritty, so you told us your child's diagnosis, Connor, right? Your child's diagnosis is autism. What, just like kind of, I know you talk about it in the book a little bit, but just like, when was it that you noticed that something was quote unquote different in him? And we can start with that.
So he was diagnosed at 21 months, right? But I knew something was different at 11 months or right around his first birthday. But one thing to bring up is he was born premature. He also was one of multiple babies, and he was the only survivor of that pregnancy. And then he also had a brother who was 16 months older than him. Therefore, I can already spot the differences in how they were developing. And one of the things that was more impactful for us as a family was that he had started to kind of wave, bye, hi kind of thing. And then he kind of stopped. And then his eye contact was a little bit different than I remember it being when he was a baby. And I was like, something's not right. Como que está pasando acá? So I went to my, pediatrician and said, I think something's off. And they're like, oh, well, he was premature, blah, blah, blah. He's also a boy. They develop late, the whole thing about boys and that they're slower than girls. And I'm like, I don't know. So it took me a while, but eventually around, I think it was 20 months or so, I was like, listen, something's not right. I want you guys to get him tested. At this point, they already said he was a little bit delayed in development. And we started some therapies with playing and putting little buttons in holes and things like that and putting puzzle pieces together. And then they gave us the all the appointments for the developmental pediatrician, for the speech and this or that. And then sure enough, everything came back as he has autism. So here we go right away. I was actually one of the very few people in life that you'll ever meet that was like, yeah, he has autism, because I was like, I want to help my child. I just want to help my child. So then right away I got on it. I didn't have enough time to process everything, even though I kind of already in my mind knew. So then right away we started all the therapies, everything. And fast forward today, he's 13, still nonverbal. But because of his very difficult beginnings of his life, it kind of makes sense why he is in the position that he is. But he's also someone who is very smart, despite the fact that he can't talk.
This is the thing I've been trying
iPad.
Yeah.
Yes, he communicates through his iPad. We use Per Loco to Go. It's an app that has he's been using since he was about 4, I believe. And then he asks us, I want milk, and it's pictures, everything, has a voice that you get to choose what you want your child to sound like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, now that, here I'm living in Arizona now. So I moved from New York a while back, and, how do I say, we're just out of school now for the summer. And, the whole summer, my focus, my goal is going to be to teach him how to ask at restaurants for what he needs.
Yes.
Very picky eater, very picky eater. So it'll be where I'll have it on the iPad, the restaurants that he prefers, what is it that he likes to order. And we're going to get there. We're going to it's all about just getting them into a rhythm of getting to know, where am I? What are the things that I do here? What do I, in this case, it's restaurants. What do I order when I'm here? So that kind of thing. So you kind of know it's a whole process with our kids, and we learn what to do with every environment that we find ourselves in with our kids.
I love it. And the fact that obviously that he's a picky eater, but you're still trying to expose him to different environments and different cuisines as well is amazing. Because a lot of parents, for fear of their child having a meltdown, won't even attempt to give them the food, which I don't blame them, because there's a fear. You don't want your child to not act the way that everybody wants them to act. I don't give a crap anymore.
And we did.
He's gonna do what he does
for many years too.
Aiden did too at the beginning
for many years. Yeah, and I just literally ended feeding therapy about 3 months ago. So we have been trying really hard to get him to, because there was a while where they were like, oh, he's going to have a feeding tube. And I'm
my God.
No way in hell. I'm going to make sure that this kid eats, and it's better and better every day. And it's about having patience, being kind, and presenting the food
more than one time
by little. And more, and maybe 30,000 times.
Yeah, I was looking. I don't know if you follow the Autism Dietitian. She actually, oh my God, you have to follow her account. She posted a visual saying as opposed to presenting your child with a full meal with weird foods, non comfort foods, you give them what they like and give 1 or 2 pieces of the new thing, so that they associate something they like with that new food, and they'll have a taste for it more often.
I mean, agree. And one of my tricks, there's he doesn't like pasta or rice, right? So what I do is I'll like, let's say I'll make like a pesto pasta that has chicken in it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'll get a big piece of chicken, and then sometimes I'll like quickly, when he's not really looking, I'll grab a piece of the pasta, then a piece of the chicken, and the pasta is like laying right
You
underneath the
sandwich it,
chicken.
right?
Yes. And then I go ahead and I'll put it there, and then he grabs it and puts it in his mouth, and he doesn't know he's eating the pasta.
My thing
Yes.
is with
It's like a
Aiden is
win-win.
I know it's like the small victories. My thing with Aiden
Mm.
is like he loves rice and chicken and any
Oh
kind
my
of,
God, I
actually he
wish.
calls all the meat chicken. So with Mr. Aiden, he is anti-vegetable. If he sees
I
anything green,
miss
he's
you.
like, take it out of my plate. So
Well, I'm kind
what
of like that, and I'm in my 40s. I don't like
so look
vegetables
at
too much.
Joaco, what I do is that I make a moro, like the rice with the beans inside of it, because there's some comadres that don't eat Latin food. So I'll make rice with some kind of beans inside of it, and I'll chop up the pepper. It's really really small, and the onions really really small. So then when it cooks down, it has the essence of the pepper in there,
The
but
flavor.
the flavor, but he doesn't see it, so he's not gonna be
Yes.
like, I don't want it.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a lot. It's like the way we
It sounds
discover
like
how to.
me.
It's the
Yeah.
way we discover how to like give him things. It's crazy. He had waffles the other day for the first time. I was like,
Ooh.
he's like, more
How'd
waffles,
that
please. I
go?
want waffles with eggs. I was like, okay.
How old is he? How old is he?
He's 13. He's the same age as your son,
Oh
but I
my
think
God, it's mine. Okay.
Aiden might be 1 year older because Aiden turns 14 in November. When does Connor turn 14?
Next year in March.
Yeah, so they're like 1 year apart
Yeah.
almost.
They're a year apart almost. Yeah.
So the early intervention went well, and I love the fact that you guys are so involved, and it seems like your family, like your husband's very supportive, and I read in the passage in your chapter of the book that your son was also very supportive, that you guys were teaching him how to use cues and like speak to Connor in a way that he will
Mm-hmm.
understand. Like, how can you just give us like kind of like the way that you introduced that to your son?
Well, to start, my other son, like I said, he's just over a year older than him. So he is the contrary of Connor in the sense that he's super, super mature. So when I mean, he's almost like our father because he will scold us if we don't do something right that we maybe told him, you need to do this, you need to do
Wait.
that. And then if he doesn't see us do it, then he goes, wait a minute, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. Like, what is wrong with you? And
Oh my gosh.
so it's really funny. And so it's very nice to see someone who's so involved, who's just a little older than him.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the way that we taught him is clearly he what's interesting about him too is that he remembers like him at the NICU because he was in the NICU for 3 months when he was born. Connor was. So he remembers his trips to the NICU to see his brother. And then he remembers him coming home and all the health issues that he went through when he got home. So I think that his involvement with him has been since he came home, since he was a little baby. And then Connor had colic when he came home. It was really bad. And Evan which is his name. He's 14. He'll actually be 15 in November, like your son's November
Oh
birthday.
wow.
Yeah. So he's always just been very involved. So it's kind of a natural progression in our family. So,
Mm-hmm.
like if let's say I buy lunch or something, or I make dinner and I feed them both at the same time, like I don't have to worry to watch Connor to make sure he's eating his dinner because I'll say, "Hey, Evan, just make sure your brother's eating his dinner." And Evan's like
Oh.
right there, making sure his brother's eating his dinner. If he needs anything, he's right there to give it to him. So it's not just like my husband and I, but we have like our third little
Other
person
parent.
that yeah, other parent who like really has some sort of invested interest. And he
Oh my
also
god, I love
says
that.
that he will always have him. Like he's never going to a home or anything like that
Oh
because
my
when you can't take
god.
care of him, he's coming with
Oh,
me and I'll
Belqui, you're
never
gonna make me
marry.
cry.
I
No.
know. And yeah, and he says I'll never marry anyone who doesn't want him to live with us.
Oh my
So I'm
god.
hoping he follows through, but I always make sure that he understands like That's, you don't have to do that. But if you do it, that's wonderful, but you don't have to do it.
Oh my God. That reminds me of, I don't know if have you watched Love on the Spectrum yet?
Oh yes, I did.
Did you watch the one in the USA
version and the one in the US? Yes.
So that reminds you of the sister that has the brother in the house. I forgot his name. The Indian family.
I forgot his name, but I know who you're saying. But that was like so
she like
touching.
lives with her brother. Like she gave her parents basically a break. Like she took over and is making sure that he's socialized and he's doing the right thing. Well, not the quote unquote right thing, but like. That he's living an adult life,
that he's living so that he doesn't fulfilled life for his condition. I watched it and I thought, if Connor, I don't know, because obviously he also has some brain issues, but I'm like, if he's able to have that kind of life, because obviously he can't speak, but maybe he'll communicate at some point because he's only 13 and miracles do happen, right? I'm like, I would be so happy if he was able to be like, I found this person that I love to hang out with and I love to spend time with. They don't have to get married. They don't have to be physically intimate to enjoy each other's company, So that's what I'm hoping for him in the future. So, que sea lo que Dios quiera.
Eso va a ser. It's going to be that way. Wait, tell me a little bit more about Connor. So he's a picky eater. He is very good at communicating with his communication device. And what else? What else about him? Like, what makes him sparkle? Like, what are the things that he's like,
cookies,
like that he
loves?
Cookies? Which kinds though?
He's like, we used to call him the cookie monster when he was little because he loved cookies so much. But he goes through phases. Like he'll love chocolate chip cookies, or he'll love vanilla wafers, or right now he's in the fudge cookie phase. Ooh. So he goes through all that, but then he also loves popcorn, and he also loves like these I can't remember what they're called, but these like really healthy kind of cookies. Wish I remember the name of the cookies
healthy
right
cookies?
Now. But yeah, these healthy, like they have blueberries in them, and they're like Velveeta. Velveeta.
Oh, the Velveeta, the breakfast crackers.
Breakfast ones that have like, so he gets into these like phases where he really loves one thing and then he's like really into it and then he drops it and then he moves on to the next thing he really loves.
That's
and then
totally on brand.
Still eat. Yeah, and then he'll still eat like, the popcorn, or he'll eat like, I don't know, some crackers of another kind, but nothing like his favorite thing. He knows how to give it everything a break, but he is into water. He loves water, but doesn't drink soft drinks or juices. It's just water or milk in the morning and milk at night. But other than that, it's just water. He drinks water all day long. So he has his quirks, but he's super sweet. He's very loving. He has his moments, right? He has meltdowns and all that, because imagine if you can't effectively communicate how it's frustrating.
Hello.
Yeah, but for the most part, he is like super loving, and it might have to do with the fact that since he came home from the NICU, all we did was give him kisses and hugs, and we were so grateful that he survived.
Amen. Yeah.
And he had a twin sister who didn't, so we were like, this kid's getting all the love he can probably get in the world. So, so he's very loving. And if you meet him, he'll probably be hugging you and laying his head on you. So he's super sweet. Yeah, super sweet.
Is there, so my son is into dubbing videos and he really likes right now the cartoons that he likes is, ay Dios mío, ¿cómo se llama? It's on Disney. It's like these little Bluey. It's like a dog family, whatever.
Oh,
before that it was like Peppa Pig.
My son is into reggaeton. The reggaeton, that's what he.
Pero bueno,
I know, which is really weird. So it's so strange. So he can't talk, so he can't tell me why, but he loves like
Bad Bunny.
Music videos is what he likes to look at. So, for example, right now he's into like Nati Natasha and Becky G sin pijama. So at school, they're like, do you know that Connor's watching like these two girls,
these women
in lingerie,
scantily clad,
pajama, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think he's watching them for what they're wearing. He just really loves the song.
Oh my God.
It's so bad. But he just really loves anything like, Criminal with Nati Natasha, or like right now he was like J-Lo with Nelly. Are you ready?
Oh, pero ese viejo. Okay, okay.
Yeah, so he finds these songs and he just loves to watch music on YouTube. And then he is a huge, so this is where his white side comes in because I'm Dominican and his father's like white, blanquito.
Yeah, yeah.
So he watches 21 Pilots. So I don't
Okay.
know if you know
I know the
what
band.
21
Yeah,
Pilots is. Yeah, so he loves pretty much every song of theirs. So he also
I went through my
watches the
gringa
videos.
phase in college.
Oh, okay. So he's going through the Dominican or Latina phase and gringo phase at the same time. So you'll see him watching all sorts of music videos. It's really hilarious because I really wish that I can say, like, how did you find this video? I don't know because I tried to watch him and I don't know how he goes from like one extreme to the other when he doesn't have certain things on a playlist.
Listen, they know how to find the things. Like my students who don't know how to read or write in pre-K, they're like, "Hey Siri, play such and such cartoon on my iPad." It's really funny because I'm just like, how? How do you know? But it's that's so cool. Mm-hmm. I love it.
So it's like when I tell people, they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, he goes from this thing to that thing, and it's like two completely different worlds of music." But
amazing.
Somehow, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wait, does he like Bad Bunny though?
Yes.
Yay! Yes. He's a Bad Bunny.
Yes. he likes pretty much any reggaeton. Like right now, I'm like trying to not teach him, but I downloaded a few more songs that I'm playing in the car. So he also likes to sit in the front seat. And then like I'll play music, and then he'll like if he doesn't like the song, he goes, which like means change that song. I don't want it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, so for the people that are not watching the YouTube video, she was pointing to the left, right?
Yeah. Yes. Because usually I'm sitting to the left, and then he's on the right, so he's pointing like this
at
way
the radio
to tell me
to tell her to change the channel.
To change it. And I usually have the iPhone, the iTunes hooked up to my car.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and anything that Pitbull sings too. He's like he loves
of course Pitbull's like with the counting down and all that stuff. He's like there was a meme. You remember that?
Like, he's like going crazy. Like he's like a headbanger in the car.
I love it.
Girl, I have a lot of fun. I have to say.
No, I mean, like it was just the episode that aired yesterday. We were talking about how having a child on the spectrum and then meeting other moms of kids on the spectrum, it's like you're like exchanging X-Men trading cards. Remember, you're like, so what do they like to do? Oh, his special ability is this. And it's so cool because as a teacher, I get to see all of it, and it just makes me so happy. Especially once you like tap into whatever it is that they like, you can literally teach them anything as long as you involve whatever it is that they like, and they just learn it.
100%.
So getting into the topic regarding labels and diagnoses. So I looked everywhere regarding was there like some kind of historical context regarding special education and communities of color, and I literally found nothing. There was no there was nothing that they were doing specifically to Black and brown people in special education classrooms. However, I did find at one point the kids were being overdiagnosed. Kids that did not have special needs were being placed in special education classrooms. And it wasn't necessarily because they had special needs. It was the teachers who were not people of color were working with them, and anything they did was being misconstrued as like oppositionally defiant disorder, learning disability. The teachers weren't really trying, and so now, like the lens now, the way that we look at it is before we send a child to be evaluated, the teacher needs to show that they were actively trying to teach the student, that they used different approaches, that there was different tiers of intervention that were provided for the child, and that there was still no progress, which is good and bad because a lot of the time, a lot of kids slip through the cracks. One, some parents are not aware too. And, it's really doing a disservice for the child. Because, like, if I'm seeing something in the classroom and I'm telling you, like, hey, ding, 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 I'm getting my little, what is it called? My radar is going off. Come on, listen to me. You know what I'm saying? It's not, I'm not trying to escape from having 32 kids in my classroom. I don't care. One more, one less, 35. I don't care. The thing is,
Yes.
like, if as a special education teacher, I'm telling you, hey, we need to pay attention to this behavior. I'm noticing this. The child is reversing letters and they're still in fourth grade. There's a problem.
Yes. And I
There's
think a
something that
lot
needs
of
to be addressed. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what happens too is that, the school district, of course, because I've seen this over and over and over and over again in the years where I've been a special needs mom, talking to a special needs mom, and people who don't have special needs that someone's told them they might have special needs, right? Is yes, the teacher can see signs, right? But a lot of the times, or not a lot of times, sometimes it could be, yes, the child has an issue. Then the school needs to let them know, okay, this is what's happening. But the school, at least what I've experienced, I can't speak for where you're working right now, but they'll tell you, we think that maybe you want to get your child evaluated. In some states, you can't legally tell a parent
Yeah,
that,
no, you can't.
right? So therefore, you might say your parents doing this. You're kind of giving them an idea, like go get your child tested for something. Hopefully, the parent gets it, and then they get tested outside of the school.
Mm-hmm.
Just because the teacher says that, or just because the school has these metrics of evaluating what may be happening to a child, or maybe what they think is happening, you need that diagnosis outside of the school by a psychologist or psychiatrist
Mm-hmm.
professional, or a development professional, to tell you, okay, this is what we found that is going on with your child. This is the diagnosis. Then you come back to the teacher. Then the teacher says, okay, this is what I'm seeing. In my experience, once we got a diagnosis, then the school did their own testing, and then they had their own level of diagnoses and what they found, right? So you have your professional outside of the school district, and then you have your teachers and the speech therapist or the PT or the OT in the
Mm-hmm.
school, and then they give you their assessments on the child. Then you kind of take, in my experience, at this point, the doctor has nothing to do, or the evaluators outside the school have nothing to do with what the school comes up with on an IEP or a
Yeah.
504 or whatever it is. Therefore, now it's the school's responsibility to now put together a plan that works for your child. As a parent, you can accept it, not accept it, make amendments to it whenever you want to make amendments to it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Uh, I also think, and from my experience and having seen it, there's a lot of time that children from our lower, what I don't even know what the word to call it, but our lower, um, I'm trying to find the right word, from our communities that maybe they don't have the financial
Economically,
abilities
yes.
economically, or maybe they're in a home where they're seeing certain behaviors happening in their home. A lot of the
Disenfranchised
times they
communities,
might,
communities that are, in
yes,
danger, that the
exactly.
children are already in danger of falling behind because they don't have the resources that all the other families have. But
Yes,
there's a larger propensity for the kids, especially if they
yes,
have special needs, to be undiagnosed.
exactly. But also, some kids may not have any kind of diagnoses other than they're living through trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're coming to school and exhibiting certain behaviors because of something that's happening at home that they're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with. And then that might be called, oh, maybe they have, oppositional defiant disorder. I actually know two kids
Mm-hmm.
that have, you know, ODD. And,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have it because of what they're seeing at home. They have it. But if you're also talking a child that has trauma from PTSD, things that they're experiencing at home, it may come across to an educator as maybe oppositional defiant disorder, but what they're doing is mimicking behaviors that they're seeing at home. So it's also a thing where you have to kind of locate, okay, where is this coming from? Is this something that's coming from their home experience, what they're seeing every day? They're bringing it home and they don't know how else to act because
Mm-hmm.
this is how they see their parents acting or other family members acting around them. And then, is this a child that actually has this situation happening and they do have this disorder? And then now, how do we identify that? And that's where you bring the parents in, and that's what you say in whatever way you can say without getting sued, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't get sued if you bring in these questions, to
Mm-hmm.
parents, which makes it really hard on the school district or a teacher like you, when you think maybe this is what's happening, and then you're like, well, I'm afraid to say something or, offend these parents. And,
Yeah.
so you guys have it really, really hard when it comes to identifying a lot of the time, especially something like ODD, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would say, because you don't know if this is just modeled behavior or there is actually something going on with the child.
So I want to touch on three things. So, regarding the suggesting for a child to be evaluated, there's a way that I do it that I'm not gonna be sued by a parent, and I just want to kind of put it out there because there's a lot of comadres that are actually teachers as well. So regarding the behaviors that you see in the classroom, first, what I do is get to know the child and the family, right? That way I can figure out if it's trauma informed behavior, if it's PTSD from other things that they've been through. I ask other teachers, like the previous teachers, like, what's the family history? What was going on? Did you notice anything while you were with the child? Because I'm noticing such and such behavior, I'm a little concerned, right? I bring it up to the previous teacher. When I find that out, talk to the mom, right? Then if I like start taking notes on behavior, like I know a lot of you have 30 something kids in front of you, you don't have time to take fully detailed notes. But if it's like one behavior or two that you're noticing, you can take a tally, like keep a tally of how many times it's occurring in the classroom, or how many times you happen to notice it. Or if it's like something that is like, I had a kid who was actually on the spectrum, but his IEP said speech delay. And I didn't know that. And then he would have these monster meltdowns because I wasn't giving him enough time to finish the task. Okay. So instead of keeping tally marks, because it wasn't happening as frequently as, let's say, like hitting a kid or whatever, I would notate the duration. Started at blah, blah, blah time, finished at this time because of, and then I would note the triggers, right? What was it that caused the child to behave that way? You also have to be cognizant about things that you can avoid, especially when you have a child that has autism, hasn't really fully been evaluated, and the parent refuses to get them evaluated. Things to notate, like things like that, and like avoiding those triggers. And especially like for that kid, I was able to solve that a little bit by noticing, like, okay, he's running out of time to finish the task. I can tell him he's gonna have time to come back from the special or lunch,
and that's the whole thing that
and give him a timer.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that really upsets me about the fact that parents won't accept maybe a diagnosis, or accept that their child might have some extra, help need, is that they don't understand the chaos and the stress that they're causing their children.
Yep.
So by having an IEP, by having a 504, I mean, your child doesn't have to even, be, very much need on the spectrum. But if you give them an extra time, and then they know that they have that extra time, they have no idea how much of a relief they're giving their child.
Yes.
And that's what really drives me crazy when people are like, oh, no.
Me.
I know people. And what really upsets me is that, unfortunately, a lot of them are Latinos like us, who don't want to accept that their child has some special need, that they need more time for this, more time for that. Just because your child can speak and tell you off and send you to hell doesn't mean that your child is 100% perfect and doesn't need extra accommodations. A lot of the times they do need extra accommodations, and just imagine how much better they're going to feel if they're given those.
And then the last thing I wanted to touch on is that it's really hard. Like, the school has limited resources, especially public schools, right? They have limited resources. The evaluation they give, I want to say it's superficial. Why do I say it's superficial? They're very limited in the testing that they can do. The school psychologist is not, a developmental pediatrician, is not a neuropsychologist. There's a certain amount of tests that they can do. The other tests are not covered in the school.
Yeah.
So what I would suggest, if a parent has real concern about their child and they feel like it's more than just speech, if you notice behaviors accompanying the speech delay, have your child evaluated. The worst that they can tell you is no, it's just speech, right? You don't lose anything. But
Mm-hmm.
for those parents that are in financial situations where they cannot pay for it themselves, guys, you can have it paid for by the Department of Education.
Yes.
What you need to do is write a specific letter with data. So if your child, let's say, started at reading level D at the beginning of the school year and has only moved one reading level by December and has not, progressed, and you notice that the reading is not improving, you don't see them progressing in the education, you see that their test scores are not great, you notice that the report card, also the behavior, have the teacher write this down. Take all of this and write it down in a letter and ask specifically for a neuropsychological evaluation provided by an outside agency. Okay? Once you do that, they will pay for it. And then it's your job to find a neuropsychologist that will do the evaluation for you and that you feel comfortable with. And another thing I'm going to say is that when you have that evaluation, it's going to take, depending on how much your child can tolerate, it might take 2 to 3 days. So you might have to take some time off of work, but investing the time is going to reward your child in the long run.
Yes. And some insurance plans will cover them as well. Some won't. A lot of the time when you sign up for these evaluations, they can take a few months depending on the state that you're in.
The waiting list, right?
Sometimes you have to wait months because the waiting lists are long. For some reason, there's a lot more children that are being submitted for these tests. And then there are also, speech, OT, PT, depending on the age of the child, that you might want to get extra evaluations on, and that you might be able to be eligible to get help, right? Through the school district or the government. It depends. In our case, one of the main, not even the main reasons, we moved out of the East Coast and we moved to Arizona because we wanted a different lifestyle. We wanted warm weather. We wanted a pool year round. And we just wanted to give our son, who, our young son, who's at 13 now,
the best quality of life.
The best quality of life. And I felt like, this is just what we want to do. But then coming here, we found out that we have an amazing government program for our kids, for him especially, obviously, where we get, respite, we get therapies, all of them covered by the government because we can prove that he has a disability. And I get like 700 and something hours a year just for respite, which means somebody that can babysit, someone that can maybe drive him to school, someone that can maybe take him to therapy. We have OT, PT, speech, OTPT, speech, feeding, all those were covered by the government.
Is he getting community habilitation as well?
Yes, well, that's part of HAB. So then we also get 15 hours a week HAB. So that's rehabilitation. So that could be in the house, outside of the house. It could be to help them learn how to brush their teeth. It could be anything that has to do. But just imagine all these services. Yeah. I had no idea that was even possible when we moved here. And then we got here and I was like, oh, really? We can do all this? So we have all these hours that we get every week. We found someone that we trust that is part of our family now. So maybe sometimes you may be not in the right place depending on your child's functioning level. So that's something to look into. Like, what are the better places to live where I can get all of these services and they're not coming out of my pocket? So no, those are things to look into. And Arizona has been the place for us. And we just love it, even though there's 3 months out of the year where we're melting. But it doesn't matter. We're happy. And that's what matters.
Listen, I'll take that over the freaking snowfall.
I'm telling you.
The cold in the winter.
I'm telling you, it's even in the winter here is like in the 70s.
Oh my God. Beautiful.
It's just perfect. It's just so nice. Yeah. So, so it's just about finding the best place for your child and their functioning level.
Yeah.
That's what we found.
So in the research also, I found that a lot of Latino families were against having their child diagnosed. And some of the reasons were embarrassment. They felt like they were going to be judged by other people, by other family members, especially the men. This machismo idea.
Culture that we have.
The idea, having a child that is quote unquote not normal, they look at you like you're the weakest link. That was one thing.
Mhm.
Another thing is that
But it goes back to the whole thing about, we Latinos love to care about what
Mhm.
people have to say about us, what the neighbor
Ay,
has to say about us.
el que
Like,
dirán, what are they
and
gonna
that's
say?
something that
Yeah.
we need to shake. Or yeah, or like our neighbor, our cousin, our aunt, our uncle, our sister, our brother, our mother, our father. Like, who cares what they have to say? I think people need to put more attention into their child, what's going to make their child a better functioning person in society versus what your uncle, your cousin, your neighbor is going to think about your child. And guess what? Some of these children are going to be way more successful than the other child next door who is supposed to be typical. Because a lot of our children have
Mm-hmm.
very vested interests in certain things that make them very successful because they're focused. They know what they want. They know what they like. They're not scattered, and that's what I tell a
Another
lot of
thing that I love
parents.
about our kids is that they don't give two craps about anything that anybody has to say.
No.
They don't
And they don't
care. They
sugarcoat
really don't
anything.
care. They're like, oh well, I'm gonna tell you how it is, and that's what it's gonna
Yeah,
be.
they don't care.
Um, Another thing I wanted to say is the label. Like, a lot of parents are like, oh, I don't want my kid having a label. Nobody's gonna give him a T-shirt that says I'm autistic, and nobody's gonna give him a T-shirt saying I have ODD. Nobody,
You have to put it
even
on
in the
them.
school, a child has an IEP. We don't discuss that unless the person is directly working with that child, and it's on a need to know basis, because due diligence is when you get a child on your caseload or a person that's in your classroom that has an IEP, you as a teacher have access to it electronically. You get a copy of it in paper. You read up on it. You do not share that information with anybody. You don't have to tell anybody your child. Yeah, you don't
And
have to tell anybody your child anything.
that label also helps your child. That label is put on that document and that helps your child. Just like we discussed earlier, they'll get more time for tests. They'll get, maybe they get to go to other
Mm-hmm.
classes that other kids don't get to go to. So they will get more help. That actually helps your child get to the next level more easily. And it's not like no one's looking at them saying, oh, this or that. And again, I say that not
Mm-hmm.
just because of my child, but because of other kids that I know on the spectrum, because I have so many friends with kids on the spectrum at all levels. And it only helps them. IEP 504, it's not just for kids with autism. And believe it or not, there's kids that are on the spectrum that don't even know they're on the spectrum
Yeah.
that I know, because the parents will not even tell them because they're high functioning and the parent doesn't want them to know. They have all these extra supports at school and they have no idea why. They just have them. But you're setting up your child for success in the future. And that's the way that I look at it. So if you care about what Fulanita has to say, then you have a problem.
Yeah.
You're not being a good parent if you care what somebody else has to say. Just focus on your child and what it is that they need, not on what Fulanita or Fulanito has
I
to say
agree.
or is going to think
Also,
about
I
it.
want to say that time is of the essence. Don't waste time. Don't wait. Like, just like what you did, I did the same thing. I was like, this doesn't sound right. No, we're getting him
Yeah.
evaluated. That's it. The most I can tell you is be like, oh, yeah,
Yep.
no, we didn't find anything.
They don't have it, and then you're like, okay,
Exactly.
fine, I'm good. Okay, but if then you feel good. You did your job as a parent,
And
which
you
is to
don't have
look
to
out for
take
your
whatever
child.
the person that evaluated them like I have a another the episode that's airing next week. The mom got speech delay on the IEP, but she knows her child is autistic, so she is advocating for actually having that put on his IEP. Because as a special education teacher, as a district, like working in the district,
Mm-hmm.
there's a certain bag of tricks that you need to work with that child. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially if you have the label, but
Mm-hmm.
speech and language is so vague. You don't know what that means. That could be like, oh hey, the kid doesn't speak as much.
Come on, you can be tongue tied. You can have issues because
Like,
there are certain
yeah.
disorders of the tongue and things like that that doesn't allow a child to pronounce words correctly, but their thoughts, their processes
Mm-hmm.
are pretty typical. So therefore, a speech delay or speech language and like it's so big. You
The more
can't,
specific, the better, and the more services that you can receive, and the more likely your child is to succeed with those services in place that are going to help them in the long run.
100. Mm-hmm.
So emotionally, a lot of I feel like a lot of the parents that a lot of them are in denial, and a lot of it is because even okay, so you would think that parents that are older, like older than us, we're in our 30s, right? You would think that people's in the 50s and 60s are the ones.
Oh no, girl, I'm gonna be 48.
Okay, sis, you don't even look your age, first of all. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you right now, she does not look her age. You guys, if you guys are not watching the YouTube video. But what I'm saying is that you would think people from like the older generations before us are the ones with the issues, and the thing is that those people have taught their children to have this taboo mentality of like, oh no, me, oh no, my child does not have that. No, they don't. And you're looking at the kid and you're like, like you don't want to like, because that's another thing, right? If a person is not in the mental state to receive the news that their child has special needs, or that you're confirming a fear that they already have, a lot of the time they lash out, because I've had that happen to me. They'll discredit what you're saying. They'll say that I don't know what I'm talking about, or oh, you just want every kid to have a special need or whatever. And I'm just like, I'm like, okay, I'm sorry.
That's what
I'm
you
sorry.
do.
I don't know what to tell you, but it's a lot. It's an emotional thing. I remember one time when Aiden was first, and I actually haven't spoken about it on the show. So when he was first having reactions that he was like the onset of autism was coming, I remember him like moving around a lot. He didn't want to wear shoes, and somebody was like, ¿qué lo que tiene el hijo tuyo? Algo está mal con el hijo tuyo. And they said it like that, como de caída, and I wasn't ready, and I felt so horrible. I felt so horrible. Like afterwards, that he wasn't like he eventually spoke and then stopped. After that, then I was like, okay. But like in the moment, especially alante de toda la gente, como que te tiran así como de repente, because that's like
they call you out.
They call you out all of a sudden, and it's like throwing a bucket of cold water on somebody that's very warm. Okay, so there's a way to bring things up to people. Please, think about the other person, especially if you see something in their children. Don't be a jerk. Like, these are still human beings, and people have their hang-ups. And if you speak to them from a place of love, they're more likely going to receive the message in a way that they're going to absorb it.
But I also think it's a matter of education, right? Unfortunately, I feel like, being that I've lived in Dominican as well, I was raised in New York. I was born in New York and raised between the two countries, right? I have lived many years in Dominican too. It's about education. A lot of the people that I grew up around were not people of education. And when I say of education, like even my mom and my dad didn't even get to high school, So what happens is they don't understand how to maybe sometimes speak about something that's a condition that somebody may have. So a lot of the time, at least in my opinion, the way that I have gathered like any kind of comment that comes from a family member that I know is old style thinking, I don't take it to heart, because I already know I'm educated. I went to school. I got a degree. I've been outside of DR, for example, and studied and been around other cultures. They don't have the culture and the upbringing that we have, and been surrounded with as much as we have. And in my family, there's only been like a couple other people who went to college in DR. Other than that, nobody went to school. Nobody finished high school. So what happens is they have a mentality that's a little
unrefined.
Unrefined, not nosotros como medio bruto. Like, and the way that they deliver things. The delivery
it's not from a place of hate or being an asshole.
It's just, no, not at all. It's just like, pero ¿qué pasó con fulanito? ¿Qué es lo que está pasando ahí? ¿Qué te pasa con tu muchacho? ¿Qué es lo que está pasando? And it's not like they mean to be mean. It's just like they are not thinking it straight, and they're just blah. It's like diarrhea of the mouth kind of thing. And then I think that's what we have to learn to accept as the newer generation American, right? Because we're we're either born here or mostly raised here, and we're being subjected to all these other cultures and all this more education, more available resources to us. So then we also have to understand that we have this, but then we also have to take advantage of those resources and not listen to the other voices of our older, parents or people that are making us feel like maybe, this is an embarrassment. No, I think you have to do what you have to do to help your child. And at the end of the day, that's what matters the most.
Yeah.
And eventually, nobody's gonna care.
Another one thing I want to do a sidebar.
No
so one thing I brought up to my mom, because the developmental pediatrician was asking, like, hey, have you ever considered having genetic testing to see if it comes from your side of the family or the dad's side of the family?
I did it.
You did it. So I told her my mom was considering it, and she was just like, ¿Pa qué? ¿Tú no eres autista? I'm like, I don't know. If it's from our side of the family. Like, she's like, nobody's labeled autistic in our family. I'm like, there's people with,
but guess what?
Needs.
Guess what? There's none on either side of us, so there might not be any on either
Pero
side.
Que eso es lo que yo digo. Like, but okay, like, what is the resistance to actually having? Let's say I do come out to be ADHD. Maybe I come out to be on the spectrum. ¿Qué? Eso no es nada. There's nothing wrong with it.
It doesn't change who you are. Marcy is Marcy. And Marcy is the same Marcy that Marcy was before you found out that Marcy had anything.
It actually gives people a large sigh of relief. Like one of the people that opened the season for season 2 now, she didn't get diagnosed until like later on in life, and it just explained so much to her. One of the moms that is a comadre, that is a listener, she has 2 boys that are on the spectrum. She has 4 children. 2 of them ended up being evaluated and have autism. And she got evaluated herself, and she's waiting for the results. She actually ended up having ADHD. And instead of being sad and be like, oh my God, what was me? She was like, wow, this explains so much. She gives herself grace more because when you don't know much about yourself, you're so harsh because you're comparing yourself to neurotypical people.
Or you don't know enough of the diagnoses itself. Because if you think about it, what is the big deal about ADHD? I don't get it. Like, you can have ADD, there's medication that can help you with that if you needed it. It's not like all of a sudden because you have ADHD, you can't function, you can't get married, you can't have kids, you can't walk down the street.
There's coping mechanisms.
Exactly. And the same thing with autism. In my case, I have a child who's severely affected with autism, and that's one story. Obviously, he's severely affected. But there's other people who have autism, like we talked about in Autism in Love, or even higher functioning than the people showcased on the show, that are going to have a marriage, they're going to drive, they're going to have a house, they're going to be able to pay for their bills, they're not going to need someone to take care of them. So it's about how you view your diagnoses, basically, or your child's diagnoses.
Yeah. So let's talk about the book, because we haven't actually told the comadres the title.
Oh, yeah.
And the name of the book. Hold on, I have it right here. Let me just pull it out. Okay. You can tell the title to the comadres.
For the love of autism. For the love of autism. Por el amor al autismo.
Yes. And it's so many beautiful short stories. It's a collaboration. Temple Grandin is in there, which is like,
yes.
Like,
when they told me, I almost died. I was
listen,
like, what? And they're like, yep. And I did not know until the book was finished.
I didn't know anything about autism until I watched a documentary on HBO about Temple Grandin, and I was like, oh Dios mío. And this is when Aiden was first getting evaluated that I watched that.
There you go.
And I was like, wow, look at this woman. Look at this woman. She was evaluated in the 60s or the 50s?
Or something like that. She's like low 70s in age right now. So, and like the one the one movie with Claire Danes.
Yeah, that's the one.
Where Claire Danes plays her. So in that movie, like, what I loved about it was that it showed you how, because she was the consultant for that movie of herself, like, she would show you, like, if she was looking through a little crack of something, like, what she was thinking when she was doing that, which is interesting because my son will focus on little things on a wall or something. And I'm like, I wonder what he's looking at. And then she, in that movie, was saying, well, I was looking through this and I was like,
Claire
like,
Danes is a
so not that it's the
tremendous
same
actress.
reason why.
Claire Danes is a tremendous
Yeah.
actress, and
She pulled that off.
she did such a service to that character. And then another thing, this is like completely off topic. I was watching Fantastic Beasts, the Secrets of Dumbledore. You know, I'm watching the movie and I'm looking at Newt Scamander, right? The main character, and I'm like, this guy could be on the spectrum. So I Googled it and it's a thing. Like he is definitely a person on the spectrum. Like not only that, but then they said Eddie Redmayne, which is the main character, the character the actor that plays the character, he I believe is on the spectrum himself. But the way that
I have to look him up.
So the way,
I mean, I know of him, but I didn't know that part.
I mean, I don't know if it's a rumor, if it's true, but like the way that he plays Newt is like so our kids, like hyper focused on animals, prefers to be with animals rather than with people. This is literally my son Aiden. He knows so many facts, like it doesn't really look people in the eye when he's speaking to them. Socially awkward, like really, like I'm just like, wow, this is
like all the traits.
Good, you know what I'm saying? Like all the traits. But going back to the book, sorry. So yeah, I'm like so proud of you. This.
No, it's a
and really, your chapter's amazing.
Yeah, it's a really great.
Yeah, book. Your chapter's amazing. Do you want to like share a little bit about it? And then I'm gonna make sure I drop the link in the show notes so that the comadres can pick it up.
Okay. Well, in reality, like my chapter is basically my story of the birth of my son, and it was a pregnancy of multiple babies, and 2 of them were born. 1 of them passed away. Her name was Natalie. She was a beautiful little girl, and obviously it's been 13 years, so I could talk about it. I couldn't talk about it till like, I don't know, 6 years ago. That's when I could talk about it. But yeah, so it just talks very briefly. Like I think I really should write a whole book about the experience and everything. I've had issues conceiving, so both my kids were kids that I had to do, fertility treatments to have them. And the first pregnancy was easy, only 1 baby, just to term, everything was great. This pregnancy was not that case, which was shocking because, how do you go from one to the other end? And then just about how, the struggle was from, being looked at as you're a crazy mom because you want your child to be looked at because you're seeing differences and, then of course then being looked at like you're crazy because you're excited that you got a diagnosis, but the reasoning behind it is because now I can get help for my child. And then just, little bits of how it's been, since. And I think the hardest part, in reality, it'll never get easy in my situation because my son will always probably rely on help from our family. But it's basically, just the story of where everything started and where it's at today. And then my letter to my child at the end, that hopefully one day, he's able to understand and read. But yeah, and of course the book has other stories of people who are on the spectrum, people who are caretakers. It's really a great book. Like it's a wonderful collaboration of 20 authors. So I feel that everyone should own a copy.
Definitely. Sign me up.
Yeah.
No, but I love how you give like tips to parents at the end of the chapter, like to teach them how to support their children and how to help mothers, because that's part of what you do as a life coach as well. You help moms navigate this whole that diagnosis and kind of like how to be pour into yourself so that you can be there for your child, which is one of the biggest messages that I have in the show.
Yeah, and one thing is that I even said it before, and I kind of just used you as an example, but like one of the big takeaway that I have learned through this whole experience of being an autism parent, and I believe my husband as well, is that, let's say I got this diagnosis today about my son Connor, right? My Connor is the same Connor he was the day before this diagnosis. There's nothing different about him. The day you get the diagnosis, you just find out, okay, they have autism. Now let's find out how to help them, how to make them have obviously the most fulfilling life that they can possibly have, to be the most productive that they can possibly have, of a life. But they're no different than the child they were all this time up
Mm-hmm.
until today. So don't treat them any differently. Don't feel badly for them or for yourself. Just get on there, do the work, and don't worry about anybody but yourself and your child, and that's it. Because if you take everything on, you're going to go nuts.
And definitely, I love the fact that you said having a support system, which is like friends, family, people that you can rely on, that you can talk to. Having friends that don't have kids on the spectrum, to kind of commiserate about being a parent, and then, making time for your spouse. Like, there's a lot of people that I know that it just turns into everything about the child, which I get. But another thing another message that I have in my show is like, you're more than a mother. You're not just a mom.
Yes. And what's interesting,
you are a woman. Go ahead.
What's interesting about this whole thing when it comes to your partner and the person that you're with is that my husband and I have been together 26 years and we've been married for 22. So we were long before we had children together. So therefore we had that kind of relationship. But then what happens when you give everything to your child and then you don't, water that relationship? What happens is that then you have nothing when these children are gone. And that was the way that I used to think about before I even knew I would ever have a child with a disability was, I want to make sure that he and I have something that's solid, that's good. So, and while the kids are growing, the same thing, so that when the kids leave the nest, we're not like looking at each other like strangers because we have not, nurtured our relationship. So that is important. We go on dates. If we can't go on a night date, then they're at school, we go on a lunch date.
I love that.
Whatever it needs to happen to make sure that we, and we try not to talk about the kids. We talk about stupid stuff, whatever it is, it could be anything, but we just try to have a good time together. And that's, I think, really, really important that you're still that same person. He's still the same person that you met whenever ago.
Wow. I love this conversation. Belqui, I want to have you back.
I know. I could talk to you forever.
I have...
Well, you can have me back. Pick another
Wait, I have two questions from a compadre, not a comadre.
Okay.
Hold on. Yeah, we have some compadres that listen to the show. Okay, wait. As a parent of an autistic child, how do you learn to accept the love of someone new into your child's life? When do we let our guards down?
Well, I've never been in that situation, but the one thing that I can say is that if you start dating someone and you have this conversation surrounding the fact that you have a child with a disability, whatever disability it is, and you notice that that person has kind of trepidation around it, then that's already a warning sign. And then when they meet, you will to me, I feel that that's one of the things about women, perdón, compadre, but women, we have this intuition and we can kind of tell, when something's not right or something just doesn't, algo no está bien ahí. So that's what I say. Follow that intuition in your heart and don't think with another head. Think with this one. And then you will know that that person is maybe not the right person to bring around your kid, and bring that person around when you know they're going to be someone that's going to be.
That's what I say all the time.
Because the last thing you want is for this person to be around and suddenly they are experiencing a loss of someone who was around, then they're suddenly not around. And to me, that's probably not.
And that's more devastating for the kid.
It's for them to experience loss.
Because they don't understand
and
why. And
especially if there is, exactly, they may not be understanding, then they might even take that as a personal rejection. Maybe they don't want to be with my dad because of me. So just really think about it before you and that's the same thing even for a mom.
And then the compadre also asked, how do you trust that this person really loves your child and has their best interests at heart? And I feel like you answered that already.
Yeah. And you're going to see it too, because that child's going to be asking for that person. If that person left an imprint in them, they're going to be like, where's fulanita? They're going to ask for that person. And when fulanita comes around, there's going to be a smile. There's going to be a hug. There's going to be something, because you know your child best, that's going to give you all the indication that you need that this is someone that you want.
Yeah. And I can say from little man over here, like, if something's off about somebody, he's not gonna ask for them, or he won't even demonstrate any interest of being around that person. it's like I feel like he still does kind of parallel play with socialization in a way. So he'll be in the area where there's like a social situation happening. He won't actively participate, but he'll still sit with us. So he'll be at a party, he'll be having dinner, but he's not necessarily quote unquote participating. But if I see him initiating and wanting to be around, then I know that that person is a good person to have around my child.
Yes, we really know them best. 100%.
So, comadres,
let's not be blinded by
love.
Or
lust. We can say it. We can say it. Don't be blinded by lust, guys. Think with la cabeza arriba. the head on top of your shoulders.
La que importa.
All right. And with that, I am going to end the show how I always end it. Follow me at Comadreando Pod on Instagram. And guys, I have a Twitter now. Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok.
TikTok. I love TikTok. Okay.
And you can follow Belqui on Instagram you can drop your handle.
Belqi's Twist, at Belqi's Twist. And that's because it's for my blog, my food blog mostly. So you can see me there. You'll see me there.
I was showing my students here. I was like on IG, like researching, and I was like, oh my God, look at this food. And my student was like, oh, Miss Campos, why are you doing this to me? My mouth is watering. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Torture. Just imagine how lucky I am.
Yeah, so good. So if you have any questions at all for Belqui or for anything, if you want a future episode, slide up into my DMs. Send me a Comadre-Gram via email at comadreando@escthenetwork.com. And thank you for spending time with your comadres. Bye.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Hello, comadre.
Hey, comadre.
Do you have a minute for comadre time?